Check the mic and make sure it sound right, boys.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to Video Game Hunting here on Player One Start. Let's go ahead and dive right in, as I found myself on an original Xbox collecting kick, as I never owned an original Xbox back in the day. I had played it a few times at LAN parties as people had brought in their Xboxes, and of course I've played Halo on that, but I was kind of curious what other titles are available on this system that may be exclusive or may provide a superior gaming experience from other consoles. However, the first game I saw that caught my interest was Call of Duty Finest Hour, which is the very first Call of Duty that was ever released, and if I'm correct, it is one of those games to support System Link. Unfortunately, since I don't own an original copy of this game yet, I don't really find myself tempted by these offerings that some retro stores do, which is very badly reproduce the box art, but they still provide you with a case. I have seen where others have said don't peel off game stickers from these retro game stores because eventually that's going to become retro as well, but I am not a follower of that philosophy. I really do think that you should restore these games as to when you had originally got them. And this game presents an interesting case to my philosophy. This is obviously a previously owned rental, as the stickers indicate on the front of the case, but what's interesting is that it seems to have its own customized box art. In this case, it appears to be from Hollywood Video. I'm not quite sure how I feel about this, because while this is fully reproduced box art, it appears to be original to this game. It's interesting that some game rental stores went so far as to include their own box art on these cases, but what's even more interesting to me is how a game from Hollywood Video ended up here, as I don't remember any Hollywood Videos ever being around this area. So I guess at first I'll pose the question to you. Do you feel that these are special collector's editions because this chain of video rental stores decided to create their own box art? Or should I treat this box art the same way that I treat reproduced box art in any retro game stores? Something else that always comes up when I collect disc-based games rather than collecting cartridge games is that I feel that the discs need to be complete in box with the manual. Or at the very least, they should have the original box art. I think I'm more picky about collecting disc-based games because they are more recent, and they are very plentiful and still very cheap, even complete in box. Like for example, LEGO Star Wars here is $3.99, however it is missing the manual, so I decided to pass on this copy. But the Platinum Hits Edition, which was also $3.99, was complete with the manual. And I think in terms of long-term collecting, even though I'm not really too concerned with the value, I want to have the manual with the game, and sometimes I actually do reference the game manual. Although, granted, I don't want to reference the manual for everything in the game, as I've mentioned in my previous Intellivision videos. So if having the manual and box art really matters to you, I wouldn't settle right now, at least as game values are still low, because it will hurt you in the long run, because it'll cost you a lot more to collect these further down the road when the value may shoot up. If there's anything I've learned after years of collecting, it's that you never know what title's going to shoot up in value. Another game that caught my interest was Evil Dead: A Fistful of Broomstick. From what I understand, this is an action hack and slash video game that kind of serves as a direct sequel to not only the Evil Dead trilogy, but the Dreamcast game Evil Dead: Hail to the King. Strangely, this franchise always makes me think of my grandma's house, because that's where I saw these movies for the first time. My uncle, who was still living at home at the time, showed me these movies, and I thought they were okay, but that's actually the only time I've ever seen them. I've never played this game, and I'm looking forward to trying it out, although the reviews I've seen online do not leave me with much hope. I believe the early 2000s are about the time that wrestling games peaked. I remember playing the first Legends of Wrestling and not really being too impressed by it back in the day. But what I really liked about this game is the fact that I could play as wrestlers that I knew from when I was a kid. So for $3.99, I thought I'd give this one a shot. When it comes to retro game collections and 50th anniversary compilations, I'm not really too keen on collecting these, mainly because I own these titles already on older hardware, and these are most likely emulated on the new hardware. Back in the day, when you probably got rid of your older systems to collect a new one, this would have made more sense to collect if you wanted to go back and play some of those classic titles. But now, if I'm pulling out my classic Xbox, it's not really to play Pac-Man or Ms. Pac-Man or Pole Position, it's probably going to be to play other games that I consider classic and identifiable on this system. I did decide to pick up Prisoner of War, mainly because I like some of these early World War II games, and one by Codemasters I thought I would give a try. Now here's a game I actually put a lot of hours in on the PlayStation 2 when I used to run it back in the day. This is Gena Omnimusha, and I think it's a very well done hack-and-slash action-adventure game that was done by Capcom. I think there's something about this style of gameplay set in the time period that this game is, in kind of medieval Japan, that just really appeals to me personally, and I think that's part of the biggest draw for me into this. However, if you are a fan of hack-and-slash games, and even with some elements of Resident Evil thrown in, I would say this would be a game you should try and pick up, as I definitely did here. Rogue Ops was a game that I was kind of on the fence of getting. I wasn't really too familiar with this, but I've seen this game a lot in retro game stores, and it seems like they just pile up as one of those games that people are throwing away as junk titles. And you may wonder, since this game is only $3.99, why do I struggle with it? It's because these games can add up quickly. If you buy 10 games, all of a sudden you're at $40. Buy 20 games, you're at $80, and then soon you're over $100. So this is a game that actually didn't make the cut for me because I don't really know much about it, and upon looking it up, I see that it's kind of like a stealth tactical action game, probably in the same vein as Splinter Cell, and because they didn't make a lot of sequels to this, I'm going to assume that it didn't go over really well. But if I'm completely off base with this game, let me know in the comments and I may go back and pick this up. Moving on to a game more in the racing genre, I decided to go ahead and pick up Sega GT 2002. This is the first game in the series released outside of the Dreamcast, and I really did enjoy these games on the Dreamcast, so I thought, why not give it a shot on the Xbox? As some people called it the Dreamcast 2, I decided to see what would the next-gen update look for this game. Now here's a game I actually don't see too often, but I always see listed as like this generic $3.99 kind of title, and the cover kind of reminds me of like a ripoff of the Tony Hawk and like the Pro BMX series that was really big in the early 2000s, and looking it up afterward, it is actually considered to be one of the worst video games of all time. Now, whenever I hear those words, I always think I need to collect it, but I don't know if people are saying that so that people will try it out just to see how bad it is, and it's not really that bad. But I guess it worked because I went ahead and picked up this title, and we'll see if it's as bad as they say. And although there were many more titles to choose from, probably some better than the ones I picked up, let's go ahead and take a look at the lot that I picked up. So as you can see, first off, I did find a Call of Duty with the original box art and the manual, so I went ahead and picked that up. And while not all of these games are exclusive to the system, I am looking forward to trying these games out on the Xbox because I really didn't have that many games for the system up until I started collecting in these runs. And again, it is still really cheap to collect these games, at least as of the making of this video, so why not get while the getting is good? You'll notice that I did buy 2 copies of LEGO Star Wars, and that was actually unintentional. I didn't realize I had picked up a Platinum Hits version and a regular version of the game. Oddly enough, they both ended up having the manual inside, so I think the reason why I didn't notice is because they look differently when I have them stacked on the side. But that also brings up another question in collectability. Do you have to go out and collect both the original editions and the Platinum Hits or Greatest Hits editions of a video game? In my opinion, I'm thinking not. Why do you need 2 copies of the same game? Again, why would you need a copy that had Hollywood Video box art or Platinum Hits box art? It mainly doesn't matter which one you get, just as long as you get at least 1 copy of a game. So if you were going for a complete collection, would this matter to you? Currently, I don't have any plans to go for a complete collection on the Xbox, so it's not really a high priority for me, but I really see no value in having 2 copies of the same exact game, other than the show in a video, hey, this is what Platinum Hits looked like, and this is what the original looked like. Otherwise, it is the same exact game on the same exact console. Also, something I'll note is I got something of a bonus game in this lot, as my Sega GT 2002 also has Jet Set Radio Future on the same disc. Again, when I picked up this copy, I had no idea I was getting both games. I just thought I was getting Sega GT 2002, and I was very happy to see that this game came with it because I've been looking forward to trying it out for a long time. And in monetary terms, it makes so much more sense to collect this game for the Xbox than it does to collect it on the original Dreamcast, as this title's value has skyrocketed in the last couple of years. So there we go, this is everything that I actually picked up in this trip, and as all of these are titles I'm looking forward to trying out, I decided to go ahead and live stream these this coming Monday. And of course, if you're watching this video way in the future, I will leave a link to that live stream in the description of this video. But for now, before we end this video, I thought I would go ahead and showcase a few more things that I found but did not pick up. These 2 copies of The King of Fighters for the PlayStation 4 were kind of intriguing. At the time I saw these, I was still looking for the PlayStation 3 or Xbox 360 versions of the King of Fighters, and I thought it was kind of interesting that these got a physical release due to limited run games. And while part of me is grateful that limited run games makes physical versions of games that otherwise wouldn't get a physical release, another part of me does not like the fact that they make them in such limited quantities, forcing the prices on these ones in particular to be much higher than their original price. And speaking of items that have shot up in value, look at this Sega 32X. Yes, it is complete in box, but for $250, this is definitely only this high price because of its collectability and not what kind of gaming experience this is going to provide. I am very happy when I got mine way back in the day, complete with a Sega Genesis and Sega CD, all for about $30. And that was only about 7 years ago. Sadly, this was the trend at the time I saw this in store, and it has since sold. Something I don't see too often in these stores because I don't think they're very collectible, but they are kind of nostalgic to me, are these system cleaning cartridges. I did have this hot pink eliminator for my Nintendo Entertainment System back in the day, but I didn't have it for the Super Nintendo. And yes, there are even some complete in box. I should note that these are not necessary to clean your consoles, they are just nostalgic for people that grew up with them. Looking at some of these items I have in the display case here, I mostly passed on this stuff because I either already have it, or I'm not really collecting for these systems anymore. Original Atari cartridges are kind of going down in price, which is a good thing, but really, I have all the ones that I want, and they don't really have anything here that I don't already have in my collection. I'm not too picky about collecting them with the manual, but I did see some Atari XE carts in here. I probably should grab some of those sometime. And of course, the complete in-box Atari 7800 titles are all games I already have. Specifically, Pole Position 2 I have in the box, and I think I have Centipede 2, but I'm not quite too sure. That Tomitonic 3D thing was kind of neat to see, but I thought it was a bit too highly priced, and that's not something I really collect. Now this is a part of these retro game stores that I don't really purchase anything in, and you'll see why here in just a second. Let's zoom in on this PlayStation 1 title. When a PlayStation 1 game costs as much as a retail current-gen system, the Xbox Series S, I have to wonder, what in the world is the deal with this title? In fact, this whole display case, while showing some neat titles overall, I have to say this represents the downside of collecting, as these are all priced way outside of what the normal or average collector will be able to afford. These are games that sadly are only going to be collected for their value and not for the gameplay itself. I'm assuming this title is rare because I've never heard of it before this, and I'm not quite sure if it plays well, but I'll just say this, I'll never own it. At least not for this price, maybe after things calm back down. Looking at a lot of the other games in this case, you can see a lot of them have reproduced box art, and yet they are still close to $100 a piece. I think anyone willing to spend this much for the game is probably going to want it complete in box. Anyone who just wants the gameplay experience who will take it loose is not going to pay this high a price for it. Again, that is of the making of this video. I'm sure these will be a great deal sometime in the future, but this is why you don't see me leave these stores with a lot of games that are treasure collector's items. For me personally, if they've already made it to this store, it's already too late for me to purchase. There's one thing I like about this game at the end of the case here. I like the fact that they tell you that the game has a reproduction label. They are not trying to pass this off as something that is authentic. That said, it's still on the loose price of how much you would expect to pay if it had an original label. And sadly, these stores do not negotiate on the price, so it's pretty much this price firm. Now, you may be tempted to trade in some of your titles, but I guarantee you're going to lose out trying to get that amount of money out of the games you give them. But as we finish looking at some of the games here, I should note that I actually reserved this game footage for a while, because I was thinking, oh, I'll just add this to a video where I'm not able to find much. But since filming this video, this retro game store has since shut down. In fact, that has been the case with a majority of the retro game stores that were in my area. And when I say in my area, I mean within about an hour's driving distance. Out of the 5 stores that were in that area, there are now only 2 left. Now, I haven't been able to get information about why these stores have closed, but I guarantee you it had something to do with all of the store closures. But also I think it has to do with the rise in retro game prices. I've noticed in these stores that shut down in particular, the pricing was more or less matching what you would see on eBay, when in the past I was used to seeing some deals where it would be about 20 to 15% less than what you would pay on eBay. So what I think these stores did to actually shoot themselves in the foot a little bit was that by raising their prices, they cut out the casual collecting market and only appealed to that hardcore collecting market that, unless you're in a huge metropolitan area, you're probably not going to come across too often. Thankfully, I will say, and this is a not endorsed video in any way, shape, or form, my honest opinion is that the stores that are left have been the ones that have maintained the most fair pricing that they can. And it is my personal hope that these stores around me remain open, otherwise I'm going to have more than an hour to drive to one of these stores if I want to collect games. That said, that is going to wrap it up for this video. Remember, if you like what you see, please leave a like on your way out. Also, leave a comment below about any of the topics I talked about in today's video, or any of the games that I found. Don't forget to click on that subscribe button if you want to be notified when I do that live stream showing some of these games. For now, I'm going to head out, and I'll see you all in the next video. If you like this video and you'd like to help out with future projects on this channel, please consider supporting me on Patreon. Also, if you enjoy the content of this channel, please remember to click on this subscribe button. Again, I want to thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you next time.